Most men who go to bars and clubs to meet women get no results at all. And it's easy to think, well, it must just be I'm not 6'4", I'm not a Chad. It must be because I don't have the right opening line. I don't have the right tricks to get them interested in me. I don't have enough money. I don't have... Look, all of those things matter, and some of them matter a lot. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend, oh, looks are irrelevant. That's marketing. But there's one thing that supersedes everything else. Everything else that you can do, everything else that you can be, that you can have, that's more important. And it's the number one reason so few guys are, so many men are actually going years without getting laid. Why there's more virgins now, more incels this generation than ever. Partly it's online dating, partly it's because COVID, partly it's all these different reasons. But so few men are able to actually approach. Only about half of men from 18 to 25 have ever approached a girl in their life in the US. I'm sure in Brazil it's much higher. But here's the question. What is that real underlying problem? Well, it's gonna sound obvious. You're gonna want to click off this video probably, but it's the truth. And once you understand and accept that and use the tricks, or not really tricks, use the strategies I'm going to teach you in this video to fix them, it's not going to be a problem anymore. So here's what it is. Not going out. It's okay, sounds dumb, I get it. It's that you don't go out because going out feels like a chore, feels stressful. You're gonna deal with approach anxiety, you're gonna face rejection. And so what do we do instead? Play video games, watch prawn, get the new Grok AI girlfriend and message her to have a parasocial relationship with that, or an OnlyFans model or whatever. All of those options are far more appealing, or just watching Netflix and watching the characters fall in love or whatever. Interacting with people on online video games. That's what we use to socialize because there's no friction. It's easy. And it gives you a little bit of a dopamine hit, a little bit of sense of socialization. It doesn't really solve the underlying problems of, not having enough women in your life, not having intimacy, not having a girlfriend or harem or whatever it is you want, not getting the kind of results you want. But it's so much easier than putting yourself out there that we just gravitate towards it. It's how our brain works. We like to minimize effort. That's what the subconscious tries to do, is minimize effort. So there's a very simple trick to outsmart your subconscious mind, to get yourself to want to go out because it's better than the alternative, because it's easier than the alternative, less stressful, or more accurately, less boring. And this is something I actually got from Jerry Seinfeld, and it's a tactic that I've used in my own life to complete a book, a over 60-page book that I wrote 8 drafts. So I wrote and rewrote 8 times in 2 weeks. This trick allowed me to do that. I was writing over 8 hours a day, which is more than most professional writers, authors even write. And it's because I made the alternative so boring. So here it is. Jerry Seinfeld, what he would do, first thing in the morning, he would go to his computer and he would just open a Word document, and he gave himself 2 choices. I can either do nothing or I can write. So I can either literally just sit here, maybe walk around the apartment, but do nothing else. Not watch TV, not use your cell phone, not use Netflix, just nothing. It's very easy to do nothing. It's not gonna cause resistance or like a bunch of stress, the idea of just doing nothing. So even if you're in a lazy, kind of derpy mood and you want, on an emotional level, to start, opening TikTok or whatever, well, it's not hard to get yourself to just do nothing. That's much easier than saying I have to do X willpower draining thing that requires discipline. You're reducing the friction to start taking action because you're giving yourself 2 choices. I can either do nothing, or in our case, go out. So I can either do nothing, just sit on the couch, just think, keep your cell phone somewhere else, like on the table out of reach, no TV, no Netflix, from let's say 10 to 11, or I can go to the bar. And chances are you're going to get yourself to go. And this, look, I know it sounds trite maybe, it sounds like it doesn't need to be said, but this is where most of you get stuck. I've not only done polls, I've read scientific research on this. This is why most guys aren't getting results. 46% of men, like I said, have never approached a girl in real life. And if you were to start putting yourself in bars and clubs on a consistent basis, you would eventually start approaching, even if you do have approach anxiety or you've never done it before. But if you're, in your home alone consuming TikTok, yeah, it's very easy to just not do that. So you have to start putting yourself in the environment. It's like if you can get yourself to go to the gym, you're probably going to work out. That's actually the hardest part that causes the most friction. Use this and you'll find that even though maybe sometimes you will just do nothing for that full hour, you'll find often you bore yourself into taking action. Because in a lot of ways, we have to outsmart our subconscious mind, because whether or not we want to admit it, we were evolved to conserve energy, to reduce stress, reduce friction whenever possible. And you can use willpower, you can develop discipline, but those things are limited, and those things are not always going to work 100% of the time. But if you make it so that going out is easier than the alternative, more appealing than the alternative, which it's boring just sitting and doing nothing, then you can start building some momentum. And then you can worry about these other things, right? You can worry about having good game, about dealing with approach anxiety. But if you can't even get yourself to go out, nothing else matters. All the videos you're watching don't matter. They're not going to help. This is where 90% of people who watch dating advice content get stuck, is in the overanalyzer phase. I was stuck here for 5 years. I wish I knew this trick myself. I didn't, and so I procrastinated from 16 to 21, and I went out a couple times to try an approach, failed, gave up. And I didn't even do a single approach until I was 21. So 5 years I consumed content, read books, became a PhD level in terms of knowledge about pickup, but I became completely paralyzed from overanalysis. And it actually made me worse at a certain point rather than better, because it made starting just have more and more friction, because I got this addiction to the feeling of some new idea, some new technique that I needed that eventually would put the puzzle together, and I'd have everything I needed to start without the awkwardness, to start without the approach anxiety, right? But the way you deal with something like approach anxiety is you have to expose yourself to it. You don't avoid it. You can't get rid of it before you start approaching. You get rid of it by taking action in spite of it. So this video, it might seem like a very obvious tip. I bet a lot of people, as soon as I said that beginning part, clicked off because it wasn't, some clickbait kind of idea of some hypnosis pattern or, the special thing to say. But the foundation everything else is built on is that you're actually going out. Obvious, I know, but if you're not actually going out, then that's all that really matters. And that's why being aware of this overanalysis phase is so important. It's something the red pill guys, most dating coaches, they don't even talk about, because it's in their benefit to overload you with theory as opposed to action taking, because that gets them more views. It's more appealing to a general audience because it doesn't stress them out. It makes them feel like they're gaining something without having to do something. Right? That's someone like Coach Corey Wayne or Steph is Cold or all those kind of guys benefit from. That's what their whole strategy is based on, is making you feel like just watching the content is all you need to make progress. And that's the message people like to hear, but it doesn't work. And so if you want to learn more about getting out of the overanalysis phase, how to overcome approach anxiety, how to get those first successes that make going out addictive, that make it something you start to look forward to, as opposed to something that you resist and feels like a chore and that you just end up procrastinating on, I've dedicated an entire section of my newest book, The Turning Point, to giving you specific strategies to get out of overanalysis and to start getting real results. You can click the link below to get your copy.